So, what if I told you there's this hidden program running in the background of your mind, and it's dictating every single leadership decision you make? Well, today we're going to find it. So, let me ask you a question. Is your leadership style really yours? Or are you just running on like someone else's software, bugs and all? Because here's the really scary part. If you don't consciously design how you lead, you just end up inheriting it completely by accident. And look, this isn't just some philosophical idea. We're talking about real-world impact. McKinsey's found a staggering 30% gap between a company's strategic potential and the actual results it delivers. I mean, just think about that for a second. That's almost a third of a company's potential just gone. And a huge reason for that is a broken or outdated operating model. It really is like trying to run the latest, greatest app on a phone from 10 years ago. It's all this invisible friction just slowing everything down. All right, so the invisible code. What is this hidden system anyway? Well, we can call it your leadership operating system. Think of it as the invisible code that's running behind literally everything. Every decision, every email you send, every meeting you run. And here's the big problem. Most of us never actually, built one. We just kind of absorbed it from old bosses, outdated habits, and just the daily chaos of trying to keep our heads above water. So yeah, your leadership OS is basically the architecture for how you think, decide, and communicate. But for most of us, that architecture is a complete mess. It's just a jumble of inbox alerts, constant fire drills, and a whole lot of other people's priorities. It's just pure reaction, almost zero intention. Okay, so let's talk about the smartphone analogy. How do we even begin to wrap our heads around this? Well, the best way to understand it is with something you probably have in your hand or at least your pocket right now, your smartphone. You know that notification you get, right? Update now or risk losing access. We would never ignore that on our phones. Why? Because we know an outdated OS means bugs, security flaws, terrible performance, the whole deal. So why on earth do we do it with our leadership? An outdated personal OS is just as damaging, maybe even more so. It leaves you vulnerable and totally unable to adapt. So this really is the fundamental choice you have to make. On one side, you've got the inherited OS. This is the reactive one. It runs on gut feelings, and it's fueled by a constant stream of emergencies. But on the other side, you've got a designed OS. This one's intentional. It's grounded in actual evidence, and it's built on consistent rhythms. It is literally the difference between chaos and clarity. So how do you actually go about building one of these? This isn't just some abstract theory. A really well-designed OS is built on a surprisingly simple 3-layer architecture. Let's break it down. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with layer 1, leading self. This is the absolute foundation. It's all about getting brutally honest with yourself, about your values, your strengths, and maybe most importantly, your blind spots. Because let's be real, you can't lead anyone else effectively if you can't first lead yourself. Okay, so once that foundation of self-awareness is rock solid, then you can build on it with layer 2, leading others. This layer is all about the people around you. It's where you intentionally build trust and what's called psychological safety. Creating an environment where your team feels safe enough to actually take risks and speak their minds. This is where you design a culture of real accountability, not just top-down blame. And finally, sitting right on top of all of that, you have layer 3, leading results. Now, this is where the magic really happens. This is where all that great leadership work turns into actual, tangible outcomes. We're talking about sharp strategy execution, really clear goal setting, and measuring the things that actually move the needle. This is how you make sure your well-led team is, actually winning. Okay, so that's the framework. It sounds good in theory, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, for that, let's turn to the world of sports for one of the most famous examples of a leader who just completely threw out the old system to build something brand new. So back when Billy Beane took over as general manager of the Oakland A's, he had one of the smallest payrolls in all of baseball. He just knew there was no way he could win by playing the same game as the big, rich teams. So he did something absolutely radical. As the quote says, he threw out the old playbook. He literally designed a brand new operating system for how to run a baseball team. He completely ignored the league's obsession with gut feelings and, what players looked like. Instead, he built his entire strategy on cold, hard evidence. He focused on these deeply unglamorous but super effective stats, like on-base percentage. He basically replaced the entire old-school scouting network with a disciplined, data-driven machine. And the results? They were absolutely legendary. The A's went on this historic 20-game winning streak and made it to the playoffs, completely defying everyone's expectations. But the real impact was even bigger than that. Bean's new OS didn't just win a few games. It completely changed how the entire sport of baseball evaluates talent, forever. That, right there, is the power of intentional design. But this isn't just a cool story about baseball, right? This is something you can do too. You can start designing your own leadership OS right now, and it's a really practical project you can kick off with a simple 30-day plan. It really just breaks down into 3 key steps to get started. First, you have to diagnose reality. That means auditing your current meetings, your metrics, everything. You've got to get really honest about what's actually working and what's just a total waste of time. Second, you design the blueprint. This is where you draft your ideal system, maybe on just a single page. And third, you get alignment. This is crucial. You have to bring your team along for the ride and get them on board with the new plan. So you can see here the first 10 days or so are all about auditing the existing chaos. The next 10 days are for mapping out your team's skills and the principles you really want to live by. And then finally, you spend that last block of time actually designing your new rituals and getting everyone on the same page. It's a manageable process. It's how you finally take back control. So look, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Your leadership operating system is either something you inherited by accident, or it's something you designed with intention. The choice is totally yours. My advice? Choose design. Hey, if this explainer helped you see your own leadership in a new light, do me a favor and hit that like button. And make sure you're following for more insights just like this. And you know what? If you know a leader who's totally stuck in that reactive chaos we talked about, maybe share this with them. It could really help. Thanks so much for watching.